Hi, my name's Jen, and today I wanted to share my top 10 favorite supervillains. So let's get started. I do just want to say briefly, I am not an expert, but I do really enjoy superheroes. I've seen lots of movies and a lot of different shows and animated series. This is not a list of the very worst, most evil villains or bad guys. This is just the list of my top favorite villains and supervillains. These are the characters that I really enjoy seeing in movies and shows. I like these characters because they are formidable opponents and they are well-developed characters. First favorite character is Loki, and he is the god of mischief. His power is a little bit more on the magic side. He's Thor's brother and kind of main antagonist. I really like him because he's funny, he's mischievous, more mischievous than he is evil. You never really know what to expect with him, and so it's really interesting to see him show up. And then, of course, Tom Hiddleston. Am I right, ladies? My second favorite is Dr. Doom. He is a brilliant magician who has incredible technology and resources available to him. He's a sovereign ruler of a country called Latveria in the comics. He is kind of the main antagonist of the Fantastic Four, although pretty much everybody fights Dr. Doom at some point. I also like his backstory. Apparently in the comics, he is actually really power hungry. That's kind of what makes him a bad guy. He's constantly trying to gain more and more power. As you can kind of tell with him being the ruler of a country, having all of the best technology, being really smart, and also really powerful with magic. He's kind of dabbling in quite a few different areas. And the reason he's doing that is actually because he's trying to fight Mephisto, kind of Marvel's devil character, so that he can get back his mother's soul. And as a mom of sons, that really resonates with me. I can really appreciate that. The lengths that he goes to are not justifiable by that, but I really appreciate that there is a really good backstory. And the thing with Dr. Doom is he's not always wrong, and you can kind of understand where he's coming from. So I think that just makes him a little bit of a better overall character. My favorite version of him is from the Avengers cartoons. I've seen a few with him, and I really like the kind of cartoon versions of him. I think they're a little bit more true to the comic version of him. My third favorite character is Taskmaster, and his main power is that kind of if he sees it, he can do it. He is a master of disguise, he's a master assassin, he has kind of photographic reflexes. So he's just a very powerful villain as well, very formidable. I think that his costume, his design or whatever, is very scary looking. I think that's really well thought out. One other thing that I like about Taskmaster is that in the comics, he actually has a kind of training school or academy where he teaches henchmen how to be henchmen. And so anytime you see like a major villain with a bunch of henchmen, chances are they probably went to a Taskmaster's training school, and that's where the villain was able to get all of those henchmen. So I just think that's really interesting and fascinating, and I appreciate the detailed thought that went into that. I'm not sure if I've seen him in any action movies. I can't recall right now, but I have seen him in a few cartoons or animated series, and I really like that version of him. And my fourth favorite supervillain is Red Skull, and he doesn't have quite as many powers. He's kind of just a enhanced human, so he has like heightened human abilities. His main thing is that he's a master tactician, and he's the main antagonist for Captain America, though I'm sure he fights lots of other people too. He's really more on the evil side on this list. But the reason why I really like him is because he's a really good tactician. He really thinks and plans, and that really is highlighted in one of the comic series, Old Man Logan. This is kind of an alternate reality or whatever, kind of what if situation. Red Skull is actually able to organize all of the supervillains, and they wipe out all of the other superheroes. I think that comic series really highlights the kind of true power or danger of Red Skull, and I think that just makes him a little bit more interesting and formidable then. My fifth favorite character is the Joker. There are quite a few versions of him. I think most people are familiar with him as a character. He's one of Batman's main antagonists. He's really smart and also crazy and unpredictable, and those are kind of his powers. So not like real like other powers like some of the other characters. I think that he's a really good bad guy for Batman, because Batman's kind of main thing is that he's able to think and be one step ahead of other villains, but that's not the case with the Joker. So I think he makes for a very good bad guy or villain to Batman. So I also really like how the Joker can be a little bit more versatile with his role. In the cartoons, you can have a little bit more of a funny, goofy kind of Joker, and in the movies with like Heath Ledger, you can have a little bit more of a serious, kind of crazy, brilliant type of Joker. Similar to the Red Skull, there is a series in DC, and kind of I think it's called the Injustice series, or the Injustice universe. In that series, he tricks Superman into killing Lois Lane. And once that is done, Superman just really goes crazy and loses it and starts to kill everyone. He comes back and immediately kills the Joker and starts to kill a lot of the other villains. And then superheroes start coming in and just questioning him, like why he's just going crazy and killing people, and he starts to kill superheroes and stuff. So you can really see the brilliance and also the craziness and the unpredictability of the Joker in that series, and how powerful and dangerous that can be. So I really appreciate his complexity there. All right, my sixth favorite character is one of my favorite characters on the list. My husband always laughs at me whenever I go over this list with him or we talk about this. This character is not a supervillain. I would just say that he's a villain. It is J. Jonah Jameson, and I actually got the idea from one of the games we have, Munchkin. It's the Marvel edition, and he's actually a very low-level villain. And I saw that and I thought it was funny, but I think it really makes sense. J. Jonah Jameson is, I think you could really make the case that he is one of Spider-Man's main antagonists. He does have quite a few, but I would make the case that he is one of them. And his power, I would say, is that of public opinion, or controlling or influencing public opinion. And I think that's something that tortures and really plagues Peter Parker and Spider-Man throughout his life and his experience. And the thing with J. Jonah Jameson is Spider-Man's never able to do anything about it. With other villains, there's ways that he can see that justice is served. But with J. Jonah Jameson, he's never able to go up against him. My next favorite character is Magneto. He is a mutant. He's kind of one of the leading mutants. Him and Charles Xavier kind of have two different mutant philosophies. He believes that humans are at odds with mutants, that they cannot coexist, they will not coexist. That's from a lot of his experience, both being a mutant and then also being raised in a concentration camp during the Holocaust. He really kind of took to heart this us versus them mentality, and so he oftentimes is really trying to protect mutants, which is understandable, but he will go so far as to attack first and be on the offensive first rather than just the defensive and protecting. But I really like his character because I think his character is really well developed. I think that he's just very interesting to watch because you never really know what he's going to do. He is sometimes one of the main villains of the X-Men, but sometimes he is an X-Men, and then sometimes he's the leader of the X-Men. And so I really like that he's a character who has kind of his beliefs and experiences, but he also thinks about them and changes. I don't think I mentioned it yet, but Magneto's main powers are that he controls magnetism or kind of metal manipulation, and so he's very, very powerful. My next favorite character is Mr. Sinister. He's a self-made mutant, and he's a very interesting kind of complex character as well. I really appreciate that a lot of these characters are not just evil, and that's as far as you get with their development. And with him, there's quite a bit more, so I really appreciate that. He does do a lot of experiments, and those are not always voluntary experiments. So that is really what makes him bad and dangerous. In the comics, he is trying to gain kind of all of the mutant abilities and powers as he possibly can, so that he can create kind of the perfect mutant. And the reason he wants to do that in the comics is because he's trying to defeat and kill Apocalypse, who is another really bad, kind of more just plain evil villain. And so he really kind of operates with that the ends justify the means type of mentality. And I really appreciate that you can understand where he's coming from, but you really are then kind of challenged to think about where that line is. My next favorite character is Thanos. He has quite a few powers and abilities. He is a telepath. He has magical powers. He has telekinesis. He's very intelligent, immortal, immune to a lot of things. Just the list goes on and on. And he was raised on Titan. He's kind of like a mutant god. A lot of the people on Titan looked very differently from him, and so that really helped to kind of shape his life trajectory in a way. He was made fun of a lot, and that negatively impacted him. And apparently in the comics, Mistress Death, the kind of personification of death in a female form, she kind of came along and noticed him and kind of took him under her wings. He fell in love with her, and in the comics, a lot of what he does that's bad, he's actually doing to try and impress Mistress Death. I think that's just really interesting. As somebody who studies psychology and mental health, I really care about how the things that we do and say affect other people, and so I think that Thanos is just a very interesting character, and even though he is very, very powerful, I think that his kind of backstory kind of helps to humanize him a little bit more, and I just really appreciate that. My final favorite character is Venom. I've seen him in a few shows and cartoons. I think those are my favorite versions of him. I think that he's a very interesting character. He's an alien parasite, technically a symbiote, but in the way that he interacts with Spider-Man, it's more of a parasite. So he's one of Spider-Man's main antagonists. I believe that Spider-Man is the first person that he kind of connects to or bonds with when he comes to this planet. When he does that, he gains all of Spider-Man's abilities, powers, strength, knowledge, memories, all those types of things. And so Venom is Spider-Man kind of, but way better or way more powerful. So anything that Spider-Man can do, Venom can do better. And I think that makes him very dangerous. I think another thing that makes him really dangerous is that he knows all of the things that Peter Parker knows. So like all of the memories, wants, desires, his love interests, other things like that. And Peter Parker may not always be as honest or self-aware. And I think that that really allows Venom to be even more dangerous, because he can then go after the people that mean the most to Peter Parker, and Peter Parker may not really know that, or he's a little bit more vulnerable to that then. So I think that just makes him a little bit more interesting and complex. So those are my favorite supervillains. I also just wanted to share that I really think that it's important to think about villains. As a parent, I think that it's really helpful to have some of these characters for my kids to be able to watch and kind of learn and think about, and really assess where is the line between good and bad. Because a lot of these people have very understandable motivations. Dr. Doom is just trying to save his mom, which I just love. And, I think that's really sweet. But he definitely takes it too far. I don't want my sons to do anything like what he does. And so I think that by really thinking about their motivations and other things, we can learn a lot, and that provides us with an opportunity to grow ourselves. But also, if we're parents, it really provides a great opportunity to teach and engage with our children on some of these topics. I hope that you enjoyed this list. I'll also have in the description box 2 other YouTube channels that go into much greater detail into these characters and many, many more. So if you want to learn more about any of these characters or any other superhero characters, those are 2 great resources to check out. And finally, I'll also have in the description box 2 other videos that I did kind of on this topic. I made a top 10 list of superheroes, and I also created my top 10 list of favorite X-Men. So if you'd like to see either of those, I'll leave those in the description box below. I also created a playlist, so you can check it out there as well. So I hope that you have a great day. Bye.